And next up on Jason's video game source, we got 007 First Light. I'm playing this on a PlayStation 5 Pro right now, and developed by IO Interactive, developed and published by IO Interactive, the makers of the Hitman video games, and released May 27th, so a few days ago, 2026, May 27th. Released on all current gen systems, and I believe the Switch too. Now, personally, I grew up in the males in my family. My father, my brother, and me, we all watch James Bond movies. My father's seen every James Bond movie. My brother's seen every James Bond movie. I've seen most of the James Bond movies, including George Lazenby's James Bond movie. So I've seen most of them. I haven't seen all of them. So I understand the essence as far as Ian Fleming's, James Bond character in movies. I haven't read none of his books. Um, so yeah, let's get to some early impressions and some thoughts on James Bond 007 by IO Interactive. Now, I have beaten the last Hitman game, Hitman 3, so I could kind of compare the two. Right off the bat, I would say 007 First Light has a more quality presentation. It's like closer to Naughty Dog's presentation than, say, Hitman 3's presentation. Hitman is more of an open sandbox. There's dozens of ways to take out a target. And Bond is a little more linear, but animations, the melee combat, the shooting, everything's a little more polished. It looks better, it feels better, and it's not as janky, if that makes sense. So right off the bat, it seems like a higher quality video game, just overall. So what else we got here? Yeah, so it does have a little bit of Uncharted. If you ever play those games, they have, well, if you actually watch the James Bond movie, there are huge action set pieces within probably every movie he ever made, or a James Bond movie. So it does have some Uncharted action set piece sequences. It also has the stealth mechanics and the gameplay of when you're doing stealth and stuff. Reminding me personally of Metal Gear Solid 5, except it's not as good as Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's very good when you're using like the Q lens and the Q watch gadgets and stuff, which let you see through walls, and you could basically poison enemies from a distance, and you could distract enemies, you could lure enemies. So it has a lot of flexibility, a lot of player agency within the game maps. Like, I'm not that far into this game, but I'm at the point where he's like visiting the world championships of a chess, I believe, is in Slovakia, and the map is really good so far. Where you can like open doors, you can like, it has a Hitman esque to the maps. Like, you can hide, you can like knock out enemies and hide them in rooms and lock the and break the door handle so people can't get it. Like, it does have some Hitman esque gameplay mechanics. Like, it has a feel, but it feels like a different game, like 007 First Light, not Hitman. It actually is its own game. Let's say this, and it does have the James Bond essence. It does have the essence. One of my complaints, I would say, is early on. Although it was great and I was really impressed by the cinematography, there was a lot of training going on, because in the movies at least that I've seen, you don't see James Bond when he's 26 years old like you do in this game, and he's going through all these training montages through for MI6. Now, for the gamer, I think that's actually a great thing that you're seeing him as he got recruited into MI6, because you actually don't see this in the movies really that I seen. And he got recruited in MI6. He's going through all these training montages. So a lot of the early game is him basically learning how to be a agent, learning how to be a spy, right? So I kind of did and didn't like that. I actually loved how the montage was done, but I wanted to get to the flying out of airplane shit. I want to get to the action set pieces. I'm finally getting to the area where he's actually an agent now, and he's a spy, and he's actually putting in that James Bond work. James Bond, he's a charismatic guy. He's charming, and you could do all that in the game. You could like walk up to like an NPC who's like in a high security area and like try to bluff your way through by dialogue gameplay sequences. You can steal keys and get through doors. It has a lot of that. It has a lot of Hitman essence into it. Except James Bond is way more charming than Agent 47. No offense, man. I love Agent 47, but yeah, this game is great. Like, I'm not nowhere near done with it, but I can recognize a great game that has a great presentation with the visuals, the sound design. The writing is really good. The writing for a video game is like a James Bond movie. It has a good, a good feel to it, and understanding of And speaking of which, the story of 007 First Light actually reminds me of Skyfall. If you never seen the movie Skyfall, spoiler alert, you're basically her Bond, Daniel Craig's Bond was basically hunting down an agent, a rogue 007 agent, right? That's the story so far. What I'm getting out of First Light. So the story's really good. It's interesting. It's very James Bond, you know. One thing that's not very James Bond is like you have these two friends that you went through training with in MI6. I'm talking about First Light, and they're like really part of the story so far, like as NPCs. That's not really in the James Bond movies. It's basically James Bond doing, you know, of course you got Money Penny, you got M, which by the way are important NPCs, and I do like how they did M. Wrote M and wrote Money Penny, and I really like how they wrote Q. Q's a guy who does all James Bond's gadgets, the cars, the motorcycles, everything, the watches, the glass. So there's sequences where you are at MI6 headquarters in London, and you talk to Q, you talk to these little respites in between missions and stuff that you talk to the classic James Bond characters of MI6 and whatnot. So I like that. Um, yeah, the gunplay. You could like shoot the guns out of people's hands. You could target spots in their body and stuff. Uh, but it does have that Metal Gear Solid feel to me. Like if you're doing stealth, you take out like 5, 6 enemies without being caught. Then all of a sudden you're caught. You start shooting your way out. Right. That's how I play all these games. Right. You go in stealth, but you end up shooting your way out. And James Bond has a tag on the screen that says "License to Kill." The second you have to start killing people, so it's pretty cool. Like you start out stealthily, you try to not kill anybody, you knock people out, you try to be a true spy and stuff, but you might get alerted. You might not be able to bribe away or con your way out of the situation, right? You might start shooting people. So that's in the game as well. So yeah, I mean that's it. It's just a solid game. I mean, gameplay mechanically is sound. The melee's fun. It's got a little bit of Batman, like the motion flow, like counter attack, punch, kick. You can, like I say, you can shoot weapons out, catch the weapons, and shoot. It's the training tutorials really did do a good job with that and whatnot. And the story is interesting so far. I'm not going to spoil too much, but the story is interesting so far, and everything's written pretty good. And it does have a little bit of Hitman essence within the open maps with player agency. It's not as you don't have as much player agency as Hitman. Hitman had a lot of player agency. It was a true like hub sandbox away of assassinating characters. And this is very like linear for story progression. You gotta either go in this room or you gotta hide this guy or you gotta con this guy. It's like it's more linear, but it does have like flexibility with a clue system, and you could like follow different paths and stuff. So it does have some player agency, but it's not as like open ended player agency as the Hitman video games. This is a little bit more like Uncharted, a little bit more like Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that. In other words, it's a great game. That's basically the gist of 007 First Light. So that's about it. I'm enjoying it as a guy who watched probably 20 different James Bond movies. It's really good so far, so I can't complain. That is about it. Before I go, make sure you check out Bobby Vegas Gaming and jasonsvideogamesource.com/games for a free game database. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks God it's Friday. Later.